The following program is made possible in part by the Nancy Eccles and Homer Hayward Family Foundation, the Digital Media Foundation, Yellow Brick Road, and the Arts Council for Monterey County. A big thank you from McCate TV.
Hi, I'm your host, Dylan Holmes. This is McCate TV, and you're watching On the Mission Trail.
You're watching On the Mission Trail, a student-produced news magazine on McCate TV. And now, On the Mission Trail with your host, Dylan Holmes.
Starting off, we go to the Zombie Run and Emergency Preparedness Fair. Then one of our reporters, Athena, sits down with newly elected Congressman Panetta. Wrapping up the episode, we check out the West End Music Festival in Sand City. And now to Pebble Beach to learn about emergency preparedness.
Today, teaching hands-only CPR to folks. The latest science is that the old 30-2 respirations and compressions that you may remember is actually not the best practice for CPR. Whenever you stop your compressions, you're building up a blood pressure. Every time you stop, your blood pressure drops back down to zero. So you're basically rolling a boulder uphill with your chest compressions. We're also finding that folks are much more willing to jump in and do CPR if they don't have to think about the concept of mouth-to-mouth like it used to be. So the standard these days is to do straight chest compressions with your hands at about the nipple level of the chest, right in the middle of the sternum, and compress at a rate of 100 to 120 per minute. Just don't stop, and a compression depth of at least 4 inches. So the basic thought these days is if a person is unresponsive, you can do a quick check for a pulse, no more than 10 seconds. But if that person is generally unresponsive, start chest compressions until they either come up at you swinging, telling you to get off their chest, or until 911 services arrive. At the earliest convenience, send someone to call 911 or do so yourself, and then just go ahead and do chest compressions continuously until 911 arrives.
I'm a captain with the Presidio of Monterey Fire Department. That's the old Fort Ord in Seaside. And this is our prevention trailer. Our trailer is used to teach kitchen safety, fire extinguisher safety, along with how to put out stove fires.
So what I teach to the parents and the kids when they come to this part of a small trailer is for them to have a two-way out. Right here on the wall, I have a two-way out plan, and I teach them to incorporate a two-way out. Every family should have a two-way out plan to show you how to get out front door to the kitchen, master bedroom, to the side patio. You must have a two-way out because on the event that your primary exit route is not available for smoke or it's burning, you must have a second way out to ensure your survival. For that reason, it's imperative that you have a two-way out. Everybody should have a map like this here showing a two-way out and practice and escape at least once a month so they get familiar what to do in the event that is necessary to use it. So on the other hand, right here, I also teach the kids how to fill the door. The door is I ask them, I pose the question, how they will know if there is a fire on the other side of the door without opening the door? And they told me maybe I touch the handle. The handle sometimes is kind of protruding away from the door. So I ask them to fill the door with the back of the hands. By the back of the hands, the front of the hand, you got too much skin. Front of your hand is thick. Back of your hand, the skin is thin. And it goes directly into your brain. So that with the back of the hand, I'm going to demonstrate. Back of the hand, you touch the door, you can feel the heat. This door right now is 119 degrees. You touch it, you feel the heat. If the door is hot, and you see a smoke, I'm going to show the smoke. You see a smoke coming from underneath the door. One more time. You see smoke coming from underneath the door, and the door is hot. I teach them right away to grab a towel, to grab a sheet, anything in the bedroom. You can see behind me, it's a bedroom setup. They got blankets, sheets, pillows. I tell them to grab anything immediately as soon as they can. Grab a sheet, a blanket, cover, jacket, whatever they can. The goal is to make sure that they stop the smoke from coming in. The reason why, as we all know, smoke is toxic. All kind of smoke, including cigarette, they're all toxic smoke. So we told them that when you feel that, see smoke, Whenever you can't cover, you don't want to breathe it, it's only toxic. You're going to get sick, dizzy, and you pass out. Long-time exposure to smoke will cause asphyxiation, your brain going to shut down, and will cause death. Prolonged exposure, it will and can cause death. You know that for sure. So for that reason, I tell them to make sure if you smoke, cover the door, and go and escape from the door by crawling. So I'm going to demonstrate how to do the escape. Right now I'm going to show you that through the theory that if the fire travel to the wall, in my outlet, now it's nice for the smoke, but we can see the smoke rise. Since it's weightless, the smoke covers rise. It's rise. So because it's going up, I guarantee you that on this level that I'm now, on this level, the oxygen is good. The oxygen is still pure. It's only toxic on this level. Up, it's toxic, it's toxic smoke now. On this level, it's good. So for that reason, I would train them, I teach them that when you hear, you see that, and upon hearing the smoke detector from the room being activated, it means it's time to get out. But to do so safely, in a safely manner, I'll always show them to put this up all the way to the, I always teach them, I'm sorry, when they're close on fire, the school have teach them to start, drop, and roll. That's all you're close on fire. If your room is full of smoke, no reason to crawl, to roll, I'm sorry, you crawl. And I will demonstrate now how to do so. Do so all the way to the ground, you see the smoke, open here in this. I teach, okay, start, drop, and crawl. Then we twist it from the ground, then we crawl, and then we crawl elbow in the front, left and right elbow to the front in this fashion. You do that until you get to the door, to the window, in order to ensure it's a self-escape. I tell them and I emphasize, do not stand up while your room is full of smoke. You're gonna have like a minute and a half or so before you're gonna pass out due to the toxicity or the chemicals that are burning, and you're not be able to help nobody, not even yourself, if you pass out.
Hi, I'm Ron DeLucchi from PG&E, and we're here with the electric board showing the do's and don'ts of electrical safety. What you're seeing here is the real deal. It's 12,000 volts. It's what a normal neighborhood is, and it's all the hazards. For example, the man taking down an antenna. Antennas we're no longer using on roofs, but they're still up there. And maybe they're doing some work on the roof where they're taking it down, they're not paying attention, and all of a sudden there's a point of contact with the antenna and the 12,000. And good possibility that's a fatality. Trees are growing, they contain water, they're just like our body. So consequently, Davy Tree Company trims our branches to keep them away from the wires. And we warn all the children never to climb a tree or fly a kite in a neighborhood that has electrical wires. That's the best thing, to stay away from it. Wires fall on the car, and when they fall on the car, stay in the vehicle. And what's protecting you is the rubber tires. There's procedures for jumping out of the car and hopping away, but the thing is, stay in the car. You could use a cell phone, you could touch somebody, just about anything you want to do, you can do while you're in the car. But like I said, the last resort is getting out. If you ever got a shock in your life, two things have to occur: touching faulty electrical appliance, and the thing that we're all doing right now, standing on the ground. So the combination of both at the same time. And that's why a bird can stand on a wire. They're standing on the electricity, but they're not touching the ground at the same time. So those are just a few things we show. And of course, the backhoe that's on the board there, it's call before you dig. When you start digging in an area and you don't have it marked, you're really looking for trouble, because you don't know what's under that ground unless you have somebody call and mark and locate before you do the digging.
We're here for an emergency preparedness event. Main objective here with the Quake Cottage is to teach awareness about how serious earthquakes are. What we do here is we're representing about a 7.5 earthquake simulation. It's about 35 seconds long, and basically just shows you what it feels like to experience an earthquake.
It's always good to be prepared for an emergency. Now let's find out how prepared Jimmy Panetta is for Congress.
Hi.
Hi.
Congressman Panetta, with Election Day just a few days away, we'd like to thank you for coming and taking the time to share your thoughts and feelings with us about the election.
Of course. Well, thank you and all that you guys are doing. I know, you know, it's just as busy as a time for you, but I think this is the right thing to do in order to encourage your classmates, be it at Hartnell or at Millennium or other schools, to either get prepared to vote or to vote on Tuesday, November 6, 2018.
Can you talk to us about your feelings or solutions regarding immigration issues?
Yeah, you bet. Look, I think as being the grandson of immigrants, being raised on the Central Coast of California, I, as well as the other people in this area, we appreciate, we value immigrants, immigration, and immigration reform. It's been unfortunate that nothing has been done since 1986 federally when it comes to changing the immigration laws. And so that is why we are in the predicament that we are in. And so there needs to be something done. Now, going into Washington, D.C. back in 2017, that was and continues to be my #1 priority, making sure that there is immigration reform. Obviously, our #1 industry is what? Agriculture. And therefore, we have, it takes labor, and it takes people coming in from other countries to do that labor. We have a lot of specialty crops here. You name it, we got it, as you know well, as we all know well. We can't just run machines through those fields, though. It's not similar to the crops in the Midwest. It's not corn, it's not wheat. We can't just run a combine through. We have had humans to go into the fields and actually use their senses, sight, touch, feel, sound, smell, to determine what's a safe fruit or vegetable, what's a ripe fruit or vegetable, what's aesthetically pleasing to the customer when it comes to fruits and vegetables. Because once the humans pick those crops, they go right into the containers, right then onto the shelves of a store, and then basically into my daughter's mouth, or our mouths. And so we have yet to have the technology to keep up with that sort of discernment. And therefore, our #1 industry not only relies on a human workforce, right now that human workforce is aging and it's shrinking. And so we need to do something to provide some sort of protection for those who work in agriculture, and ideally make sure that there are people who continue to come into our country to continuing to work in agriculture. Because let me tell you, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, there are not domestic workers who are going to do that. People who are American citizens will not sign up for those jobs. There's too many other jobs available right now. And so the last thing they're going to want to do is go into the fields. And that's why we are so fortunate to have the immigrants that we do, on top of the fact that they have become not just part of our economy, immigrants have become part of our community, part of our country, and part of our culture here on the Central Coast. We value immigrants. And therefore, the ones who have contributed, the immigrants who are here and have been here lawfully, and basically without breaking the law, we want them to continue being here. And so there needs to be immigration reform to keep them here. An earned pathway to citizenship. A great example are the Dreamers. Look, you know well, going to Hartnell College, there are over 800 Dreamers at Hartnell College. The Central Coast of California has close to 20,000 Dreamers. California is the #1 state in the amount of Dreamers in the country, 240,000. Texas is second at about 140, and then Illinois is third at about 40,000. And we here on the Central Coast, we have 20,000. And therefore, we need to make sure that they have an earned pathway to not just stay here, but when I met with Dreamers, when I talked to them, these are young men and women who don't just want to stay here. They want to continue to contribute here. They have had hurdles put in front of them throughout their life, yet they've just constantly got over them. They are basically the best of what we have here in America, if you ask me, because they know how to endure when challenges face them. And it's that risk-taking quality that my family has had, that many family members, many families here on the Central Coast have had, that risk to come here, and it's that quality, that risk-taking quality is something that they exercise while they're here. And that's important to have. And I think that's why, a big part of the reason as to why the United States of America is what it is. Because we have people who have come here to give their children a better life, to provide that opportunity for their future. And I think it is that quality of those types of people that have made this country what it is. And therefore, we in the United States Congress must do something in regards to making sure that our immigration system is reformed. But at the same time, you bet, we can secure our border. It doesn't mean we build a wall. What that means is that we can provide infrastructure where necessary and where reasonable and where cost effective. But you also need technology. You need detection devices for tunnels. You need aerial devices. You need surveillance devices. You need more people. There's nothing wrong with border security, okay? But at the same time, that's not what immigration reform is about. You can couple it with actual immigration reform, providing visas who have been here, who will continue to contribute here. And so it's called comprehensive immigration reform. And ideally, what we'd like to see is some more leadership out of the White House on this topic. Rather than using political rhetoric about it, we need actual policy on it. But at the same time, Democrats and Republicans need to step up, come together, and work together. That's why I was fortunate enough to do it on the caucus that I'm on called the Problem Solvers Caucus. It's about 24 Democrats, 24 Republicans, where we basically, once the president decided to terminate the Deferred Action on Childhood Arrivals program, we immediately came together. And we sat down and we actually compared Republican legislation and Democrat legislation and actually found a compromise on that. Then we moved on to border security and basically came up with a determination as to what is reasonable border security, how do we get there? And because we wanted to show our leadership, here are Democrats and Republicans that are actually agreeing on something that means so much to this country and to our communities here on the Central Coast. And so that is something that despite what we're seeing this week and last week, surrounding the election and using immigrants and immigration as a political tool, I can tell you that there are Democrats and Republicans in Congress that understand the importance of it and will continue to work together in order to pass immigration reform.
Are there any other state issues you feel strongly about that you would like to address with us today?
Look, I think in this state, immigration is very important, and I think I've gone on enough about that, but you can never go on enough about it, especially how important it is here on the Central Coast. But I also think that infrastructure is important, infrastructure investment. Ideally, I would have liked to have seen this administration back in 2017 come out of the gates with a nice unified infrastructure investment package. You know, using money that was kept overseas by corporations, having it one-time recuperation, a one-time ability to bring that money back in, use some of that money in order to invest in infrastructure. Provide an infrastructure investment bank and invest maybe 20 to 25 billion in that infrastructure investment bank, and then use that money to leverage other money, other loans, other grants, public-private partnerships on that as well. Unfortunately, we didn't get that. But once again, we on the Problem Solvers Caucus came up with a solution to show leadership we can do that. Now the issue though is not just infrastructure. I think we all across this country, Democrats and Republicans, understand how important that is. The issue is how you pay for it. And look, and that's what we did here in California. We sucked it up and we passed a gas tax. And we're seeing the benefits of that tax through a number of projects that are being built, and ground is being broken on them at this point. And so it's making sure that you know, we find reasonable ways how to pay for that sort of investment. It's very important. Look, housing is important here on the Central Coast. Housing is important in California, but we're seeing the effects of housing. Clearly, we're feeling the effects of the expensive housing that we have here on the Central Coast, not only in Monterey County, but in San Benito County, Santa Cruz County especially, where the average home now is about $900,000, which is unbelievable. And obviously then in San Benito County and Santa Clara County as well, the 4 counties that this congressional district encompasses. And so you need to realize that we need to continue having grants for certain development of housing here on the Central Coast, making sure that we continue to provide tax credits, the 9% tax credit and the 4% tax credit for housing to be built for low to middle income families, people, so that they can live there and have more housing. That's the problem. I mean, we have a lack of housing stock here, and therefore I think people are starting to realize that, and not just through the various rent control proposition and measures that you're hearing about, but also through housing development measures like Measure H in Santa Cruz, where basically it's a sort of a bond to then invest more in housing development. And so those are very important for this area, obviously, when it comes to immigration, when it comes to infrastructure, when it comes to housing, but education's important as well. As you know, when I was fortunate enough to go to a junior college here, as we called them back then, now community colleges, I went to MPC for 2 years. There I was able to work full-time, paid my way through MPC, paid my way through UC Davis, which I transferred after 2 years. You could do that back then. But then I went to law school, and I'm still paying off my law school loans. Now law school loans, student loans, are basically encumbering our young men and women we encourage them to go to school, but we really don't give them a way to pay for it. And so it's been making sure that that $1.3 trillion in student loan debt that's out there, that we make it easier on our students, because I believe it's sort of it's preventing them from doing things that I was able to do. I mean, look, I went in public service right out of law school. I was a prosecutor. I joined the Navy, and I'm running for office. But you know, all those jobs, I didn't make that big of money where I could pay that big amount of money, a significant amount of money where I could pay off my loans, and so that's why I'm still paying them off. But I wouldn't give it up for anything. I'm glad I did the public service that I did, because I was able to fulfill basically the principles that I believed in, always giving back to our country and community. But I know there are a lot of people that will not go into that because they need to pay off their loans. And so we need to make it easier for them to do that by either lowering the interest rates on student loans, lowering the interest rates, providing more Pell Grants as well. But also at this point, you know, it's so heartwarming to see Hartnell College, MPC, basically provides free tuition for students. And so I think free community college is amazing, and ideally that comes through the state. But I think the federal government should ultimately step up and look how we can provide grants or some sort of funding to continue to make free community college for everybody.
Thank you for taking the time to come and talk to us today before the elections.
Of course.
Thank you so much.
You bet.
Thanks, Athena, for that great interview. And now moving on to something a little bit more musical, we go to the West End celebration.
All right, well, thank you, McKay TV. Welcome to the West End celebration. This is our 17th year, and we've got 175 artists spread out throughout the streets of Sand City. It's a true arts event. We also have live music. We have a poetry stage. We've got 3 stages with music going on. All sorts of things for everybody, including little children too. All sorts of interactive art activities. But more than anything, it's a celebration of community, diversity, and all forms of art. Like I said, we got 175 artists, a lot of local artists, but also we get artists from Arizona, New Mexico, other parts of California. And of course, more than anything, we've got the artists from Sand City that open up their doors and welcome you to show where they live and where they work. This festival started out 17 years ago as a small little festival that where the artists wanted to show what they were doing, and it just continually grown. So here we are. I hope you guys have a great time at the festival this weekend.
Love me do. Whoa.
Well, Guitars Not Guns is a nonprofit. Me and a couple other people that were affiliated with the West End Celebration started a local chapter of Guitars Not Guns in Monterey County, and it's become a fundraiser for Guitars Not Guns. You know, we get the proceeds from the wine pavilion and the percentage of the alcohol sales. The Friday night kickoff party is also a fundraiser for Guitars Not Guns. And with that money, it helps us provide free guitar lessons. Well, we're all volunteers, but really what the money goes to is buying guitars. We've purchased over 1,800 guitars in the last 8 years and donated them to children all around the county. We have classes in Salinas, Gonzales, King City, Marina. We have a class in Marina that goes year-round. And if you were here early on this morning, our tradition is the kids from Marina and some other schools, they kick off the whole West End celebration with a little concert on the main stage.
What if I told you I made a mistake? What if I said I don't want to have this break? What would you say? What if I hadn't made those choices? Hadn't given to those old voices in my head? What would you say? Would you say you're not going anywhere?
The Guitars Not Guns website is guitarsnotguns.org, or you can also, we have a Facebook page specifically for the Monterey County chapter. You can check us out there. So we're always looking for volunteer guitar instructors. That's our biggest need. So hope you'll help us spread the love.
This is Fred Hernandez. I'm at the West End Celebration. This is the 17th annual. I'm the traffic control manager at the main stage. The festival, I've been working for the festival for 8 years, I guess, and it keeps expanding and it keeps getting bigger and bigger. Now we've got a whole new stage this year and an expanded footprint. Steve Bagdini has done a wonderful job putting this together for all these years. He's a wizard. He's just a wizard. Okay, this is it's a celebration of the arts, and it includes music, painting, food, drink, fashion show, and it takes over the community of Sand City, the West End of the peninsula, and it takes I don't know how many booths, but there are probably close to 300 booths being showing their wares today, and also free. It's all free except for Friday night when there's a fundraiser for Guitars Not Guns, which is Steve Agdini's favorite nonprofit and the best nonprofit of all, because it teaches young kids to play guitar, volunteer instructors, and the kids get to keep the guitars after the instruction. So it's fabulous. It's all over the county. He's been doing it for years and years and years. And they benefit from the fundraiser last night and part of this celebration.
That's all for this episode, but don't worry, we'll be back next week with more. Thanks for watching On the Mission Trail.
The preceding program was made possible in part by the Nancy Eccles and Homer Hayward Family Foundation, the Digital Media Foundation, Yellow Brick Road, and the Arts Council for Monterey County. A big thank you from McCate TV.